digital twins, game engine technology, these are rapidly moving from experimentation to everyday infrastructure within fashion. So I would like to welcome on stage Costas Kazantzis and SallyAnn Houghton.
So hi everyone, thank you so much for being here today. Thanks for your patience, thanks for attending. We're the last session. So hope it's interesting and exciting. I'm really honored to be here, joined by the legend SallyAnn Houghton. I think you've been a pioneer when it comes to adopting 3D technologies and game engines within the fashion ecosystem. And through the collaborations that you've worked on and the projects at Epic Games, you're accelerating that pace of change. I mean, personally, I'm also eternally grateful for nominating me for an Unreal Engine Fellowship a while ago. It completely changed the trajectory of my career, and I owe a lot to that. So yeah, a little bit of a brief introduction to myself. I'm Costas Kazantzis, and I'm the lead creative technologist at the Fashion Innovation Agency in London, where we explore any emerging technology and its impact within fashion and retail by working directly with fashion brands and creating practice-based research. Alongside that journey, we worked in a lot of projects together. So SallyAnn, I don't know if you want to briefly introduce yourself as well.
I'll try and keep it short. It's not an easy description. I work at Epic Games. I work on the enterprise side of the business. So there's, Epic Games as a gaming company. Who knows Epic Games? Who's ever heard of Epic Games? Okay. Do you know it because of Fortnite? No? Oh, it is? Okay. Do you know it because of Unreal Engine? Okay, great. So Epic Games fundamentally is a software company. And the software that it makes it's a game engine, and it allows for interactive experiences. Interactive experiences are games. They are real-time experiences, because when in a game you walk around a corner, the corner is there. It renders in real time. It exists as you move through it. And so when I talk about real time, I'm talking about game engine real time, not the fact that we're here and now in real time. So Epic Games makes software that allows for games, and we make our own games, and they live mostly within the Fortnite ecosystem. And there's multiple games there, and there's also user-generated games, so people can come and make their own games and publish them on the platform. The software is also used by a lot of other game companies. I think it's something like 8 out of 10 of the top AAA games are made using Unreal Engine. But Unreal Engine can be used across multiple industries. And so where I come into this is I specialize in the fashion and retail space and helping people understand how they can leverage game engine technology, real-time technology, and turn digital assets into real-time assets, real-time experiences that are sometimes in-house at brands with developers and are sometimes experiences out of the brand's house and on platforms and reaching customers.
Yeah, I think it's amazing to talk and explain a little bit about what game engines are, and the fact that initially they were created for the video gaming industry, but like right now they've been adopted by every creative sector that has an interest in storytelling.
Yeah.
So it's amazing to discuss a little bit what the demographic of the gamer is, because it's changing so much in our day and age. It's expanding beyond what we traditionally would associate that a gamer is. Like usually would be tech enthusiasts or young males, but that is completely I think reintroduced now. So yeah, I want to begin the conversation by talking a little bit about what brands could achieve from the moment of creation of a digital asset to actual omni-channel distribution.
Yeah.
So a lot of you might already be familiar with it, but a lot of brands have the capacity to use like very advanced software like Cloth 3D. Is everyone familiar with Cloth 3D? Have you heard of the software before? So yeah, Cloth 3D is a tool that allows designers to design garments purely digitally. It's basically using similar pipelines like a physical designer would. So you create the patterns, but instead of doing it physically, you can do it digitally. So a lot of big brands, including brands like Burberry, Vivienne Westwood, they've established teams that basically are able to digitize the products using Cloth 3D or Marvelous Designer, these types of software. And they're creating digital product. Like when we talk about digital product in fashion, we refer to those assets created by these types of software or digital twins. So my question there is like, once a brand is able to create those assets, how can they distribute them within the Epic's game ecosystem? Like we were talking a couple of weeks ago around that ability of Epic's tools to create transmedia storytelling experiences.
Yeah.
So we would love to hear a little bit more about the journey
Yeah.
of that asset.
It's super, here and now especially, it's super exciting how far that initial digital asset can go. And I think that that's why more and more brands, every big brand has invested in 3D assets now because they see the value, they know the value. How big that investment is depends on the brand and where their ideologies live and how quickly they are able to evolve. But everyone now has bought into the fact that the digital version of their product is important to their business and is important and can be important to their customers. And so we talked a little bit earlier about digital twins. And what is sort of a useful asset a digital product can be. And we talked about it as a physical replication of the product, but it actually can be so much more. Yes, I think that you want it to look exactly as the product would. So within the visualization phase, the designing, the validation phase, everyone can make the right decision competently, quicker. So you can see how that could be brilliant for a company that wants to move quickly with concern to designs and go into market. But also it could be a vessel for data, for what the materials are, what the pattern is, where those materials came from, who on the team have touched it, what were the ideas that it came from, what were its origins, and then also that that data can travel all the way through its life cycle, and that can be so powerful for brands. If you want to work out very quickly the cost of going to market, if you want people to be able to really interact with the product, if you want to make configurators, if you want to allow for that product to be a living, breathing entity that you then sell as a digital product as well as a real life product. So the opportunity with digital twins is super exciting, and we're only just starting to see the beginnings.
Yeah.
Some file formats will allow for a lot of that data. I think we still have some work on the development side to make sure, to really bring that idea to life. But digital twins are like super cool. And, and it's something that I think we're going to continue to push and develop and will be much more a part of a normal product life cycle.
Yeah.
So you've got your digital twin. And you're able to sort of leverage that twin in-house with concern to teams interacting with it being seen in a much more sort of final condition early on in the production process. You can totally understand how that could be beneficial. But you also have a digital asset that when you do want to meet your customers, can be leveraged very, easily in that it exists quickly because you can just begin to think about the content and the platform. And so, we see people using this digital twin in games. It's kind of low-hanging fruit in a way in that you can just take that twin. You still need a good idea. If you want to engage with customers and you want to do something fun, you still got to have a campaign, a creative idea, everything that the last panel and the panel before talked about with concern to coming to your customer. You can use it within your linear content. You can do your TV, your stills, be very traditional, but you still have this brilliant product that is incredibly manipulatable. You can have product passports associated with your digital product. You can sell it on marketplaces, and I don't necessarily mean an NFT because that's kind of different, but just sell it on marketplaces so that when other developers are building worlds and dressing characters, they can use that asset. So it can go incredibly far and wide and allow for your product to go to market and get into the customer's hands in really unique, exciting ways.
Because it's exactly that. It's not just about digitizing an existing physical product. Because sometimes when we talk about digital twins, people think that it's just a replica of a physical product. But it's so much more beyond that. Like I think in our day and age, fashion brands are no longer product selling like engines, but they're actually narrative creation engines. So basically, they sell their products through designing that storytelling approach that makes people become part of their community. And I think that through digital twins and whatever you've said so far, It's just a way to expand physical product rather than replace it or replicate it.
Yeah.
So it could be attached to a lot of different types of digital experiences,
Yeah.
whether those are like related to showcasing it in an e-commerce setup and scenario, or like distributing them within a game. Live events as well is a huge area that Unreal Engine is doing like groundbreaking work, like combining the cinema industry alongside fashion and gaming as well. But yeah, thank you so much for your amazing insights. I think the next part of the conversation, I want us to focus a little bit on AI. And it's great that, I mean, it's very noteworthy the fact that we've come so far into the conversation. We haven't brought it up, but you told me like a couple of weeks ago that it would be inauthentic to miss that point, and I completely agree.
Yeah.
Like very recently at the Fashion Innovation Agency, we've been recruiting for 2 new positions focused specifically on AI, because we very much believe that generative AI should work alongside those real-time pipelines that we're talking about, and it has huge potential in fashion. So my question here is like, how are you seeing generative AI maybe enhancing rather than replacing more traditional technical and creative roles? And the second half of that question is, what is your opinion towards the fact of how brands are responding to that accelerated pace of change of the technology? Yeah.
I'm going to flip it, flip the answers
do.
to the questions. If I was going to look at this ever so slightly pessimistically, AI slowed my progress in 2025 from a coming together with the wider fashion community and helping them move forward with their real-time ambitions. And it slowed because it's a new technology, and a lot of people took the foot off the accelerator that is investing in real-time foundational software because they wanted to invest time in researching AI, which is the right thing for them to have done. It's a new technology, and it's very powerful, and it's very exciting, and it needs to be explored, like, fundamentally played with, and then brought into workflows and leveraged. And so we got to the end of 2025, and it was refreshing to see how a lot of that research had kind of come to an end. And most brands that did really invest in the AI space have come to the similar conclusion that I feel, and I feel quite confident about it, in that AI is awesome, and it's going to be a great tool for us all to leverage. And it's going to empower foundational software that allows for real time. It's not going to replace real-time interactive game engines, or even kind of the pureness of 3D that has been authored with 3D tools.
Yeah.
We still need to sometimes have a source of truth, your CLO asset, your product that you've created, with all that data that we talked about with the digital double. AI is far away from being that source of truth, but it can definitely help amplify your efforts as a team, as a creative. We've been doing a lot of work, investing a lot of time in bringing in AI tools into our ecosystem. So, Unreal Engine is a very complex piece of software, as you know, you use it all the time. We want more people to be able to access the power of Unreal Engine, but it's hard. AI tools are going to be able to help with that. We've got AI assists in there now, where, I totally see how AI is going to help people that want to code but don't want to code or learn how to code. But you still need a developer, and you still need to build out these incredible 3D worlds that you can interact with and you can own creatively. And AI is nowhere near being able to replicate those type of experiences and be able to produce the minutiae of a world, a whole entire universe and world that's been created. So I very much see them as tools that could be leveraged to make our lives easier on a day-to-day basis, do things quicker, easier, get rid of the heavy lift.
Absolutely. And you can still see like distinct creative vision even when people are using AI tools. A great example of that is Taskin, who initiated the talks today. But I think, and the work that we do as well a lot recently involves helping brands to train their own data sets so that they create machine learning algorithms that are able to respond to their distinct creative style. So I think creative vision is still something that can be translated through AI, and you can see AI work and just like realize that this is basically just one prompt and that's it. But you can see creators that are just pushing the boundaries towards what the software can do. And at some points as well, even taking advantage of the failures of the systems and creating new visual languages through them. So I think it's super interesting. And then again, in terms of democratization of a lot of the very manual and very complicated processes that 3D artists have to deal with, but also automating and commercializing things more easily as well. Like I've recently established this pipeline called reskinning reality, which involves capturing human beings in 3D and then reskinning different outfits on top for brands. But then again, this involves a lot of manual 3D labor, which through AI systems, you start with the initial render and then you can create variations of it much more easily.
Totally.
If you have, let's say, a sweater in a lot of different colorways, similar to a lot of things that Taskin said before. No, that's great. Thank you so much for your insight. In regards to generative AI, I think the last part of the conversation, having you here with us today, is to focus a little bit on the business opportunities, because I think you're the best person to talk about this as well in terms of the collaborations that Epic Games has established with a lot of big luxury brands like Balenciaga, for example, but also smaller scale emerging designers, startups. So you have like a very broad remit of fashion stakeholders that you work with. And I want to know, once like a brand or designer adopts real-time tools like the ones we're talking about, beyond just experimentation, and they basically adopt them as part of the wider creative or marketing strategy that they implement, what are the strongest business opportunities that you have seen arising through those types of interactions?
I think it's worth saying, firstly, that every brand's different. Like brands are large, small, different cultures, they have different personalities. So I think it is important always to take that into account. Like, I don't think there's a playbook where one rule or one set of rules fits all. I think that you need to think about what your brand identity is, but you also need to think about where your skill sets are. And so, for instance, within the digital realm, for certain brands, they're cool, they're hip, they're culturally relevant. And so it makes absolute sense for them to invest in some kind of digital activation in a gaming world, because you could see and argue that that's where their people are. That's important time spent by that audience, and bringing your product in an authentic way to that space is meaningful and will help build out your identity within the space, but also build out your community. Makes absolute sense. So other brands, turning up in a game is not going to help them. Investing in that digital moment is not going to help them. We recently had a Hellmann's mayonnaise activation in Fortnite in the user-generated area, and no one went to it because it's not cool to play around a massive bottle of Hellmann's mayonnaise. Just because they had a digital double and just because they could put it in a game doesn't mean anyone wants it. Nobody wants to do that. It's not fun. It's not new. It's not engaging. So I think look at your identity. Look at where your people are. Some brands have internally digital champions. I think it's always, when you are developing in 3D, when you are evolving your 3D approaches and your 3D workflows and pipelines, you need champions. You need people that are not just good at it, but they totally see the opportunity. So when there are frictions, this is people change management. It's the hardest thing you can do. You need your champions. And so I would say internally, if you do have that guy or that girl, then that's where you begin. And if they are in the design space, if they are in the marketing space, if they are in the environmental build space, you leverage their knowledge, their skill set, and you begin to build a case study and a proof of concept around it. You'll win because it will be authentic, it will be backed and championed, and that's, you know, that's addictive. That's the ripple effect. Sometimes I think that brands are guilty of sort of sitting there and not being people centric and just saying, right, we're going to digitize this whole thing.
Yeah.
And they're like, where do I get developers? Like, SallyAnn, where do I get Unreal developers? And, you know, and what does that team look like? And how, you know, how quickly should we, you know, what time frame should we do? And that's too hard. That's almost like replacing a workflow and replacing a team. What you want to do is you want to augment and leverage the passion and the talent that you've already got.
And I guess knowing your audience as well, as you mentioned before, because if you don't know who your audience is within those like live events and ecosystems like Fortnite, for example, whatever you do with the technology is never gonna reach the people that you want it to reach.
Yeah.
So there has to be a reason behind those collaborations, which comes back to the point of like technology is another tool. And using technology for the sake of using it doesn't make sense, but you have to have established, you know, a storytelling platform and strategy, and you have to know your audience within those platforms.
Like, there's some brands really struggle with returns. You know, it's a huge deficit in their bottom line, and so investing in, you know, digital fit, you know, if that's your first line investment in digital, makes absolute sense, and you can totally see the benefits of doing that. Because you can see it in the bottom line. You know, because people can see how something fits them, they don't return it. Other brands, it's not a problem. They don't care about returns. It doesn't dent anything. And so that wouldn't be the right place for them to invest. They should, you know, they could look at, you know, other interactions with their audience to leverage 3D. Some brands do incredibly well because their audience want to be involved in the creative process. And so creating configurators and then being part of the creating process, you know, really helps their personality as a brand to come forth through digital. So I think that you've got to kind of, like you say, know your people, but know your identity as well.
Yeah, and have a distinct brand identity. No, that's amazing. Thank you so much, SallyAnn, for your insights. I could go on forever with this conversation, you know me, but I'm a bit conscious of time. I think it's already 4. Thank you so much for coming today, and it was a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you. Thank you so much.